This is the story that I really want to tell you. You may have heard of a guy called Robert Johnson, who was the Delta Blues guy, the guy who basically invented the Delta Blues. And the story goes that he went down to the crossroads. He was just a young guy, couldn't really play the guitar very well, and he went down to the crossroads and he met the devil at midnight. And the story goes, the legend goes, that he gave him his guitar, and the devil, he doesn't say it's the devil in the story, he says he met a tall dark stranger, and Robert Johnson gave him his guitar. The guy tuned the guitar, gave it back to Robert Johnson, and then suddenly he could play this amazing stuff which we now know as the Delta Blues. That's the legend. Well, I bought this guitar and I've been playing it for about, I don't know, a year, 2 years, and then I suddenly in 1979 got the opportunity to go to America. So that's a story in itself. There's a whole, I should write a book about that because there's a whole story in that one on its own. Anyway, I went to America and I took this guitar with me. I landed in New York in 1979, approaching, I think it must have been December, something like that, I don't know. But it was winter, coming up to winter. I was actually employed to do a job in Los Angeles, but it gave me the opportunity to travel across the country. Give it a subscribe, give it a like, share it with your friends, and I'll make more videos. So I got to New York with my guitar and one little bag of clothes, like 3 t-shirts and a pair of pants, and that was it. And I got on the Greyhound bus. I don't know if it still applies today, but in those days you could buy a one-way bus ticket to Los Angeles. You could go anywhere you wanted across the map of America. So I went all over the place. I literally zigzagged all across America. It was an amazing journey, absolutely fantastic journey. But getting back to the story, I got to Chicago, and like any good tourist, I decided to go up the Sears Tower. Chicago is, of course, the crossroads of America. And I got into the elevator. This old gentleman got around sideways and looked at me and went, "You play that guitar, boy?" I said, "Well, I'm trying." And on my way to the top of the Sears Tower, this old gentleman got out a pencil and paper, and he wrote something on a piece of paper, and he gave it to me, and he said, "You play that when you get a chance. Sit down and play that." I went, "Okay, cheers." I put the note in my pocket and thought, well, I'll check that out later, and then promptly forgot about it. Carried on my trip across America, got to LA, done the job in LA, flew back to England, and then when I was sitting in England, as I was going through my pockets back in England, I found this piece of paper, and I looked at it and I thought, Jesus, what are these chords? I don't recognise these chords at all. So, you know, I'd learnt a lot of different chords over the years. I'd learnt, like, there's a C here, there's an inversion there, whatever. I knew there was, anyway. So he gave me these chords and I looked at it and I thought, wow, what the hell is this? So I had to look the chords up to figure out what they were. And they were these chords. And you've heard me, if you've been following me for a while, you've heard me play this loads of times. And I just put this little bass line on it. I was blown away. I thought, what the heck is that? And that's it. That's what he gave me. I mean, I don't know the guy's name, but it totally changed the way I looked at the guitar. It totally changed the way I thought about the guitar, because I thought, well, because I've been playing all this sort of, you know, 60s stuff, you know, and folk music. Now I've suddenly got jazz. Mind blowing, mind blowing. And thank you to that guy's probably dead, long dead now. But that was my Robert Johnson moment, and I thought, wow, what the heck is this? It was a mind. These are crossroads in your life, right? You get to a point, and suddenly everything changes. And I just thought, what was the chances of me bumping into this guy, going up in an elevator, and him giving me that little scrap of paper that sounded so fantastic? I mean, what a gift. What a beautiful gift. Thank you. And the thing is, I've heard that riff since then. I've heard something very similar from people like Carly Simon and singer-songwriters, that kind of thing. But it's a jazzy kind of feel. Anyway, that was that. So I went back to playing guitar. Then I started meeting all these musicians in London, and we formed a group. We formed a group of groups. There was about 30 of us, and we formed a project, and we started to gig around East London, and it was very successful. Everyone started making money, because at the time there was a recession on. When isn't there a recession on? And so we was all like looking for something to do, and so we started gigging, and the pubs and clubs weren't paying anyone. So we all got together and we said, okay, we don't play unless you pay us. But we'll guarantee you that people will turn up. If you pay one of our bands, we will guarantee you the pub will be filled. And I went, yeah, okay. But the truth is, what happened, there was about 30 of us. So every time one of us had a gig, one of the bands had a gig, everyone else in the group would turn up at the pub. So the pub was packed. So the publicans were going, whoa, great. And because the pub was packed, as people are walking past, they're going, what's going on in there? And they see a crowd and they want to join in. So they all come and joined in. And that's how we got bands paid in East London back in the 80s, when no one was getting paid. In some places you had to pay to play, which was nuts in my brain. But yeah, so that was it. It was that was my guitar story. Anyway, moving on, years later, I got to another crossroads, and it was either go down the music route or go back to college and get retrained. And I decided to go back to college and get retrained. So I came to another crossroads in my life, and I thought, well, I've got so far with this guitar, learning myself, teaching myself, and I went and started taking classical guitar lessons, only a few. But then I realised, I thought, oh my God, that's a whole different ball game altogether again, whole different scenario. So I thought, I know, I'll go to college and I'll study guitar. So I went to university to sign up to go to Performing Arts College. And when I got there and I was sitting in the audition room, I'm listening to all these people playing, and I thought, well, I can play like that already, so why am I going to come here and spend 3 years to learn something I'm already there? In my mind, I was already there already. So why would I spend another 3 years doing that? So I switched and I went into computing, of all things, computers. And as my studies became more and more hectic and intense, the guitar got left behind. And then I had a whole career and I had a family. And this guitar has been everywhere I've been. I take it everywhere I've gone. But it never got played until today. But it's always been there. It's like an old friend, you know. And listen to it. It sounds great. My playing sounds terrible, but this is a Gretsch 6-string acoustic guitar. It sounds fantastic. And it's actually been through the wars, this guitar. It's got a few battle scars. But this headstock got snapped off, not once, twice. My son got it repaired last time for me, which was really nice of him. But it's a great guitar. It's a fantastic guitar. And it's like, I don't know, 77, 76. It's old. It's very, very old. But it sounds great. Oh, this is another Beatles tune that got me finger picking as well. I really need to practice. I've got to practice, man. You've got to practice. If you don't practice, nothing happens. You have to practice. I hope you found my stories entertaining and interesting. I really liked that story about the Robert Johnson thing and meeting that guy in the elevator. I wish I could have looked at it and understood what he gave me. I didn't understand what he gave me. He just gave me a note and I put it in my pocket. But then to listen to it months later, I was like, my God, that guy was a genius. Absolute genius. Anyway, that's all for today, folks, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. It really has been a pleasure.